Hannah, we had to make some tough cuts. Hope you understand. Love you. That was the text my sister Charlotte sent me. No phone call, no heartfelt explanation, just a casual line that told me I was officially cut from her wedding guest list. I stared at the screen, reading it over and over, waiting for the punchline that never came. I wasn't some distant acquaintance. I was her sister. The same sister who helped her move apartments in the middle of winter, who covered her rent when she was broke, who stayed up with her after every heartbreak. My chest tightened, disbelief mixing with a sting so sharp it almost made me laugh. Surely this was a mistake. When I called my mom, she just sighed and said, "It's just a wedding, Hannah. Don't make a big deal." That was the moment I knew if I wasn't invited, I needed to be somewhere better. Not the usual cycle where I'd push back. Mom would dismiss me, Charlotte would apologize half-heartedly, and I'd forgive, because that's what I always did. No, this time, something inside me shifted. A line drawn in the sand. If I wasn't important enough to be invited, I wasn't important enough to show up when they needed me later. I didn't even hesitate. I opened my laptop and started scrolling through resorts in the Caribbean. Each one more stunning than the last: white sand beaches, turquoise water infinity pools, balconies with ocean views. I'd always told myself a trip like that was too expensive. But right now, it wasn't just a vacation. It was a statement. The moment I clicked book now, it was like a weight slid off my shoulders. First-class flight window seat, extra legroom, and even a massage scheduled the day I arrived. I wasn't just leaving town, I was upgrading my entire mood. 2 days later, while Charlotte finalized her seating charts, I was at the airport sipping an overpriced latte, boarding pass in hand. When my flight took off, I snapped the first photo, my legs stretched in the first-class seat, a glass of champagne in hand, the skyline shrinking below. Caption cut from the list, but still living large. The likes started rolling in before we even hit cruising altitude. Cousin Megan sent a laughing emoji. A college friend texted, "Yes, Queen. Take that trip." Even Aunt Kathy commented, "Good for you." Wish I was there. For once, I didn't feel like the family outsider. When I landed, a sleek black SUV whisked me to the resort. The driver handed me a chilled towel and water as we drove along a coastline so beautiful it felt unreal. The air smelled of salt and hibiscus. My suite was breathtaking white linen sheets, a balcony overlooking nothing but turquoise water. I stood there a long moment, just breathing it in. Charlotte could have her wedding day. I had my freedom. The morning of her wedding, I woke to the sound of waves crashing against the shore. Sunlight poured through the glass doors, spilling gold across the king-sized bed. I ordered room service before I even got out of bed, fluffy pancakes, tropical fruit, and coffee so smooth it ruined every cup that would follow. On the balcony toes, brushing warm wood, I imagined my family back home in chaos. Charlotte barking orders at her bridesmaids, Mom fussing over centerpieces, someone panicking because the caterer was late. The thought made my first sip of coffee taste even better. By 10:00 a.m., while Charlotte was getting her makeup done, I was stretched out by the infinity pool, a martini in hand. I snapped a photo, sunglasses, wide-brimmed hat, ocean behind me. Caption: "Turns out I'm allergic to wedding drama." Within minutes, the comments poured in. My friend, Tara. "You're glowing, Cousin Megan. I want your life." Even an old coworker joked, "Is there room in your suitcase?" The attention wasn't the point, but I couldn't deny it felt good. Around noon, I wandered down to the beach. The water was so clear the waves seemed to kiss my knees in greeting. Somewhere a steel drum band played. I felt like the main character in my own story for the first time in years. When I finally checked my phone, I saw texts from Mom. "Are you really missing your sister's wedding for this? You're being petty." I snapped a photo of the beach, cocktail in hand, and sent it back with no caption before switching my phone to Do Not Disturb. By late afternoon, I was in the spa, a hot stone massage pressing away every ounce of tension I'd carried from home. For years, I'd been the fixer, the one to patch problems, smooth conflicts, cover bills. But lying there feeling the slow warmth spread along my spine, I realized I didn't miss that role at all. If Charlotte had her special day, this was mine. What I didn't know then was that just a few hours later, my phone would light up with frantic messages, so desperate, I'd think someone had died. But the truth was even stranger. It wasn't death that came knocking on Charlotte's perfect day. It was disaster. It was just past sunset when I returned to my sweet skin still warm from the day, a glass of wine in hand. The balcony doors were open, letting the ocean breeze roll in. I had barely taken a sip when my phone lit up like a slot machine hitting jackpot. Dozens of messages stacked on top of one another. At first, I assumed it was more comments on my latest post. But then I caught the names flashing across the screen: Mom, Charlotte, cousin, Evan, even Uncle Ray. Curiosity tugged at me. I picked it up. The first text was from Mom. Call me. It's an emergency? I rolled my eyes. Everything was an emergency with her if it didn't go her way. I set the phone down only for another notification to buzz instantly. Evan. You're not going to believe this. Call me now. Then Charlotte. Where are you? I need you. The audacity made me laugh out loud. Need me. 2 weeks ago, I wasn't even worth a chair at her reception. Now suddenly, I was vital. I ignored her. But then Evan's follow-up stopped me cold. The groom left. I froze, rereading the words. Left, I typed back, "What do you mean, left?" His reply came instantly. Full meltdown, big fight during the reception. He just walked out. Gone. No one knows where he is. I leaned back, stunned. A small, guilty voice whispered, "You shouldn't be enjoying this." But it was quickly drowned out by another louder one. Karma's a beach, and you're standing on one. More messages poured in. Uncle Ray and my dad had apparently gotten into a shouting match about family reputation. Grandma cried so hard they had to sit her down in another room. The venue cut the bar early because guests were fighting. The whole event sounded less like a wedding and more like the season finale of a bad reality show. Then came Charlotte again. Please pick up. I need your help. The old me, the fixer the peacekeeper would have called, would have tried to smooth things over, calm everyone down. But that Hannah was gone. I snapped a photo of my wine glass against the dusky sea and posted it. Caption busy, enjoying my overreaction. Then I set my phone face down, stepped onto the balcony, and let the sound of the waves drown everything else. Somewhere back home, my family was unraveling. And me, I was exactly where I was meant to be. The next morning, I woke to the scent of hibiscus drifting through the open balcony doors. My phone buzzed again, but this time, it wasn't Mom or Charlotte. It was Melissa, my only cousin, who didn't thrive on drama. Her text read, "Okay, I know you're ignoring everyone, but you have to hear this. Call me. You're going to love it." I dialed. She answered on the first ring, breathless with excitement. "Oh my God, are you sitting down?" she asked. I laughed. "I'm lying down in a luxury suite overlooking the ocean. I think I'm ready." She wasted no time. "So you know the groom walked out, right?" I confirmed. She went on, her voice practically fizzing. Apparently, during the reception, Charlotte cornered him about something. No one knows what, but it blew up into a screaming match. He yelled, she yelled, and then he just left. Jacket still on the chair, straight out the door. I grinned into the phone. "Wow, that's poetic." "Oh, it gets better," Melissa said. "After he stormed out, your dad and Uncle Ray went at each other on the dance floor about who was making the family look bad. Guests were recording it on their phones. I nearly choked on my coffee. Please tell me someone posted it." "Not yet," she laughed. "But give it time. Give it," she continued, barely stopping for breath. Then Aunt Linda started crying. Grandma got pulled into it, and she, wait for it, blamed the entire disaster on Charlotte for not inviting you. I sat up straight. Grandma said that, oh yeah, right in front of everyone. She literally told Charlotte, if you'd treated your family better, you wouldn't be alone in your wedding dress right now. I clapped a hand over my mouth to stifle laughter. That's beautiful. And then Melissa added, barely able to keep composure. Your mom overheard Aunt Lisa agreeing with Grandma, and they started screaming at each other so loudly the DJ turned the music down. Meanwhile, Charlotte was in the bridal suite throwing things at her bridesmaids, flowers, champagne glasses, anything within reach. The image was so absurd I had to set my coffee down before spilling it. This is unreal. Oh, but we're not done, Melissa went on. After all that, your mom actually called the groom's mother to smooth things over? And do you know what she said? I raised an eyebrow. Melissa dropped into a mocking tone. This is your problem now? And hung up. I laughed so hard my cheeks hurt. So let me get this straight. The same people who cut me out are now saying if I'd been there, I would have fixed everything. Exactly, Melissa said. They're saying if you had been there, you could have talked him down. That you always fix things. I leaned back, savoring my coffee. Melissa, do you know what the best part of this is? What? I don't care. Melissa burst into laughter so hard she had to catch her breath. God, I love you for that. You did the right thing. Of course I did. They wanted a wedding without me. Now they've got a wedding disaster without me. Seems fair. We said our goodbyes, and I hung up lighter than I'd felt in years. The sunlight spilled over the balcony, the waves glittered like applause, and I raised my coffee mug in a toast to freedom, to karma, and to finally being free of a role I never wanted. By midday, I was back at the infinity pool with a mimosa in hand when my phone lit up again. Despite having Charlotte Mom and half the family blocked messages still slipped through from unfamiliar numbers. It was like they were tag-teaming devices to get to me. One unknown number read, "We need to fix this before it's too late." Another, "Your sister is devastated. Call your mother." I rolled my eyes and let the sun soak into my skin. Then Melissa's name appeared. "Heads up. Your mom is trying to gather the family for a discussion when you get back." I actually laughed out loud, startling the woman on the lounger next to me. A family discussion was always code for an ambush, a carefully disguised guilt trip where I'd be cornered into cleaning up everyone's mess. Not this time. I thumbed out a reply. "Thanks for the warning. I won't be there." Melissa shot back almost instantly. "Wait, what do you mean?" I smirked, typing, "I'm extending my trip." Her response came seconds later. "That's iconic. Tell me everything when you get back." And just like that, in less than 5 minutes, my return flight was canceled, my suite reservation extended by another full week. The confirmation email chimed like freedom in my inbox. I wasn't just skipping their meeting. I was removing myself from their emergency contact list forever. That evening, under the shade of a cabana, sipping something bright blue with a tiny umbrella, I decided to send one final message before reblocking both Charlotte and Mom. I typed slowly, savoring each word. "Oh, so now you want me around? Sorry, I'm too busy enjoying my overreaction. Have fun cleaning up your own messes." I hit send. Blocked. Done. The relief was instant. For years, I had been their fixer. Lost keys, late rent, family blow-ups, heartbreaks, I'd been the one to patch it all. But sitting there, toes buried in warm sand, I realized I had finally stepped off that exhausting treadmill. That night, I treated myself to a 5-star dinner by the water. The steak melted like butter, the wine was velvet on my tongue, and for once the only conversation I had was with the waiter who smiled without expecting me to solve his life. Halfway through my meal, my phone buzzed again. I considered ignoring it, but curiosity won. It was Melissa. "Charlotte just found out you extended your trip. She's furious." Mom's pacing the kitchen. Dad says, "Good for her." Grandma is telling everyone the wedding was cursed because you weren't there. I laughed so hard, I had to set my fork down. Cursed. Maybe she was right. After dinner, I strolled barefoot along the moonlit beach, the warm water brushing my ankles, the silver light painting the waves. For the first time in years, my mind wasn't rehearsing speeches to fix other people's disasters. It was just quiet. The next morning, I woke naturally. No buzzing phone, no emergencies waiting for me. Just the steady hush of the ocean and the smell of fresh coffee drifting from the breakfast cart on my balcony. I wrapped myself in the plush white robe and sat outside with my coffee, realizing something simple but powerful. I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. Melissa sent the occasional text little gems from the battlefield back home. One morning she wrote, "Charlotte is trying to organize a makeup ceremony. Half the family says no. Aunt Linda says she's still hungover from the first one." I laughed out loud, watching them try to tape the pieces back together without me. The one who used to be their glue was unexpectedly satisfying. Each afternoon, I surrendered to the spa, discovering treatments I'd never allowed myself before. Sea salt scrubs, aromatherapy massages, facials that made my skin feel like it was breathing for the first time. In the evenings, I dined by the water, the soft night air brushing my shoulders. Somewhere, the family narrative was shifting. By now I was sure I'd gone from overreacting to selfish to cold. Maybe they were right, if selfish meant finally caring for myself. On the fourth day of my extended stay, I took a sunset cruise. The sky bled orange into pink, into purple, as the boat drifted out to sea. Standing at the rail, the wind in my hair, I realized I didn't miss them at all, not in the way I thought I would. What I missed, if anything, was the version of me who believed that showing up for people who wouldn't do the same was some kind of virtue. That version of me had been tired, taken for granted. And she was gone. As the boat turned back toward shore, the resort lights glittering in the distance, I made myself a quiet promise. This peace, this freedom, it wouldn't end just because the trip did. On my last evening at the resort, I sat barefoot on the balcony, a glass of champagne in hand. The horizon glowed gold and coral. As the sun dipped low, the waves rolling in with a rhythm that felt like applause just for me. Somewhere back home, Charlotte was likely still chasing scraps of her makeup ceremony, Mom was probably pacing the kitchen, and half the family was avoiding group chats altogether. But none of it felt like my business anymore. For the first time, I meant that. I took out my phone not to check their messages, but to capture the view. The shoreline curved like a painting, the water shimmered, the sky looked like it had been brushed with light. I posted it with one final caption, "Peace looks good on me." Within minutes, the likes and comments rolled in, friends cheering me on, old acquaintances sending heart emojis. But this time, I hadn't posted for them. I'd posted for me. I raised my glass to the horizon, letting the quiet sink deep into my bones. No guilt, no tension, no last-minute emergencies. Just the steady crash of waves, the salt in the air, and the knowledge that I had finally stepped out of a role I never chose. For years I had been the safety net, the emotional crutch, the reliable fixer. But that version of me had always carried exhaustion behind her smile. She had bent herself into pieces for people who thought her sacrifices were owed. Now she was gone, and I didn't miss her. The next morning, the first of my extended stay, I woke up without an alarm. The sun streamed in soft and warm, the breakfast cart rolled onto my balcony, and I sat with a fresh cup of coffee, watching the ocean sparkle. For so long my mornings had started with other people's crises, Charlotte needing money, Mom warning about family drama, co-workers demanding I cover shifts. Here the only decision was whether I'd spend the day by the pool or down at the beach. I wrapped myself in the hotel robe and decided I didn't have to decide at all, I could have both. Melissa checked in occasionally with her reports from the crumbling wedding aftermath. Uncle Ray refuses to speak to Dad. Aunt Lisa and Mom aren't talking either. Charlotte's trying to rebook everything, but half the guests said they're done. Another text a day later, Grandma says it's a sign the marriage wasn't meant to be. She keeps reminding everyone that you weren't invited like that explains the whole disaster. Each update made me laugh harder. It was almost cinematic, like watching a drama unfold from a safe, sunny distance. I filled my days with indulgence. Spa treatments that made me feel brand new, quiet hours by the ocean, where the waves wrote their own poetry in the sand evenings, where I lingered over meals without worrying about anyone else's appetite but mine. The guilt I thought I might feel never came. Instead, a clarity settled in. If selfish meant protecting my peace, then selfish was survival. By the fourth day, I realized the trip was more than an escape. It was a lesson. I had lived years believing my value came from fixing other people's problems, from being indispensable in their chaos. But the truth was, my worth didn't depend on how well I held together a family that only noticed me when I was convenient. It existed simply because I did. On my final night, I walked the beach under a silver moon. The water lapped at my ankles, cool and steady, and I felt a sense of closure rising with the tide. Charlotte's wedding had collapsed without me, and maybe that was the point. Maybe I had finally given the universe enough room to show me what happened when I stopped playing the rescuer. They had their circus. I had my freedom. I stood there, toes in the sand, whispering to myself, "Not my circus. Not my monkeys." The words felt like release, like truth. The waves echoed them back. When I eventually returned home, I knew the ambush would be waiting: Mom's guilt trips, Charlotte's dramatics, the endless blame. But I also knew something else. I had changed. I wasn't the fixer anymore. I wasn't the one who would bend until I broke. I had discovered the power of walking away, of choosing myself. And once you've tasted peace, chaos holds no power. If you've ever felt overlooked, taken for granted, or drained by people who only call when they need something, maybe my story is a reminder. Sometimes the most radical act of love isn't forgiving again or showing up for others. It's showing up for yourself. Because the truth is, you deserve a seat at the table. And if they won't give you one, then maybe the best thing you can do is build your own somewhere better, with a view of the ocean and a glass of champagne in hand. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below about a time you chose yourself. You never know who your story might inspire.